Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Live with Mel. This episode is brought to you by Yellow Cab Company of DC. If you're looking to avoid rideshare prices, then check out the Yellow Cab Company of DC when you are in the nation's capital. With the rise of Omicron, a lot of places have been putting mask mandates back into place. Now, the Omicron variant, is highly contagious, and we're seeing it spread across the country like wildfire. Now, while many people are vaccinated and many people have their boosters, they're choosing to wear masks once again because this variant is highly contagious. Now, while a lot of people are trying to take as many precautions as they can, we're still seeing that there is some debate over masks. And while there are some debate over masks, we're seeing that from governors to justices on the Supreme Court are deciding not to mask up or change policies that include masks. Now, today we're going to look at two different scenarios where the mask debate is coming into play once again. Now, when we look at the political sphere, we do see that everything is really divided amongst party lines, with people who are Republican tending to not want a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate in place, and people who tend to be Democrat support vaccine and mask mandates. Now, Virginia has a brand new governor. Virginia has a new Republican governor who replaced the Democratic governor, and he made a lot of changes on his first day. He went ahead and said, it's day one and we're going to work like promised. This important step we're taking today begins the work of restoring excellence in education, making our communities safer, opening Virginia for business, and reinvigorating job growth, and making government work for the people and not the other way around. Now, when Governor Youngkin said this, he was talking about the different executive orders that he was going to put into place. And on his first day in office, he signed 9 executive orders and 2 executive directives at the Virginia state capitol. Now, one of the biggest changes that he made was he essentially rescinded the mask mandate in schools. Now, a lot of parents are upset about this situation because Omicron is a variant that is affecting children. Kids are getting the Omicron variant, and many parents believe that within the school system that kids should be wearing masks. But now Governor Youngkin is saying that schools can still have a mask requirement in place, but parents have the choice whether or not they let their kids wear masks. So we could soon be seeing big changes in Virginia later on this month, with some kids coming into school with masks and other kids coming into school with no mask and them having no repercussions. Now, at the time, prior to Governor Youngkin's coming in, there was a mask mandate in Virginia schools. Schools were allowed to tell students that they had to wear masks. And the mask debate has been going on since mask mandates started going into place, with some people believing that it should not be mandated and others believing that it should because it protects everyone as a whole, everyone in the school. Now, prior to the Omicron variant, we didn't see kids really contracting COVID. It seems as though kids were not necessarily immune, but they were able to fight COVID in ways that adults couldn't. But with Omicron, we are now seeing that more and more kids are actually catching the Omicron variant. We're seeing that the pediatric wards are now seeing an increase of children have COVID-19, the Omicron variant, and we're also seeing kids die from it as well. And because of this, many people are wanting their kids to mask up. But with policies like this coming into place, it seems as though kids in masks may not be a thing in Virginia. Now, Governor Youngkin did say, there is no greater priority than the health and welfare of Virginia's children. Under Virginia law, parents, not the government, have the fundamental right to make decisions concerning the care of their children. So again, Governor Youngkin is putting the decision in the hands of the parents rather than having the schools enforce a mask mandate. So like I stated before, what could happen in Virginia is we could see a big percentage of the population of kids go to school with masks, but having parents decide that their kids aren't going to wear masks, and then having the other half of the population in Virginia schools not wearing masks. Now, this could have a lot of different consequences, like we saw in Chicago. Now, in Chicago, teachers essentially went on strike. They said they want to go to virtual learning, and Mayor Lightfoot said that she was not going to have that and they had to get into school. If teachers do not feel safe in the environment, we could see different teachers in different schools in Virginia start to protest, or they may strike because of policies like this. Right now, in this day and age, a lot of people are trying to keep themselves safe since the Omicron variant is still highly, highly contagious. Now, prior to Youngkin's taking office, the Democratic governor said that he essentially was following the science, that he was making decisions based on science rather than based on the opinions of the general public. And many people do want to follow the science rather than focus on the individual freedoms. But again, that is something that's going back and forth, and many people are debating. We're now year two. This has been almost 2 years since COVID-19 has hit us, and we are still seeing a debate over mask mandates. And we're not even going to get into vaccine mandates at the moment. But even with just wearing masks, we see that people are going back and forth on whether or not people should wear masks or whether it should be mandated or not. Now, the one thing about Governor Youngkin is that he does believe in wearing masks and he does believe in vaccinations. However, he believes that it should be a choice and that there should not be a mandate in place. Now, while the new governor does believe this, many districts in Northern Virginia do not support this executive order. Many schools in Northern Virginia, which tends to be a Democratic area within Virginia, because again, Virginia tends to be a purple state, with the southern part of the state leaning towards Republican politicians and Republican values, and the northern half of the state leaning towards Democratic ideas. Now, with that being said, many schools in Northern Virginia are now stating that they still have the mask mandate in place. Now, at least 3 school districts in Northern Virginia, so that is Arlington Public Schools, Alexandria City Public Schools, and Fairfax County Schools, have reminded the parents that their policy is that they have a mask mandate, that they are going to continue to enforce a mask mandate. But even if these school districts in Northern Virginia states that they have a mask mandate and they're going to continue to enforce it because of the executive order that the governor signed, parents in those districts who choose not to force their kids to wear masks could possibly come in and let their kids go to school with no mask, because the districts really would not have a way to enforce a mask mandate since the policy is coming from the governor for the entire state. So it is something that people are looking at. And let's go to the comments. Joanna says, I guess we will see an explosion of COVID/Omicron cases in Virginia school system. Well done, Virginia. You guys voted him in, shaking my head. Now, while the battle is now going on for Virginia schools, again, with Northern Virginia wanting to continue a mask mandate and Southern states being okay with this policy that the governor signed in, we are seeing that the mask debate is still going on around the country. And it's not just with school districts as well. We're seeing that the mask debate is even happening in the Supreme Court. And not with the policies they're making, but rather amongst the Supreme Court justices themselves. Now, Justice Sotomayor has diabetes, and this condition puts her at a high risk for COVID and getting very sick from COVID and dying from COVID. Many people who have underlying conditions are the most vulnerable when it comes to COVID-19. Now, prior to the spread of Omicron across the country, Justice Sotomayor was the only justice who was still wearing masks while on the bench. And she was doing this because she has a pre-existing condition. She has diabetes, and she was trying to keep herself safe. Now, once the Omicron variant came into place and started ravaging the country, what we saw is that the justices started wearing masks. And when they came back for session after the holidays and after Omicron was spreading like wildfire, all of the justices were wearing masks except for Justice Gorsuch. All of them. Now, what is being reported is Chief Justice Roberts understood that because of Justice Sotomayor's condition, she felt unsafe being around people who were unmasked. And because of this, Chief Justice John Roberts asked the other justices to mask up while they were on the bench. And all of the other justices did mask up, all except one, Justice Gorsuch. Justice Gorsuch has refused to mask up while he's on the bench, and this has caused Justice Sotomayor not to work from the bench, but instead to work from the chamber and participate virtually instead of coming out and working from the bench with everyone else. Now, we do know that Justice Sotomayor does sit next to Justice Gorsuch, so it is something that she is very worried about. And as we're watching this with the Supreme Court justices, the real question is, should common courtesy be put in place in the workplace, whether it's on the Supreme Court or whether it's in office, if someone has an underlying condition? Again, not everyone agrees with wearing masks. But if someone who is vulnerable is around you, works with you, works in close proximity, again, Justice Gorsuch and Justice Sotomayor sit right next to each other. Should Justice Gorsuch offer that courtesy and wear a mask because he knows Justice Sotomayor has an underlying condition? This debate is something that's going on around the country. We're seeing more and more cities, states, districts put mask policies back in place. With the rise of the vaccine, many places, many cities, many states across America decided to end the mask mandates. But with Omicron spreading across the country, we are now seeing that places want masks back in place until we can get Omicron back into control, until we can get the numbers down. But again, it is being debated once again. People are going back and forth about this conversation. And people who are most vulnerable are choosing to isolate themselves because other people are not giving them the common courtesy. And then let's go ahead and go to the comments. So Philip says, that's crazy. I can't believe the governor is doing this nonsense. And that's going back to the governor of Virginia, essentially rescinding the mask mandate for schools in Virginia. Philip also says, yes, indeed, it's being responsible. It's called being responsible. Now, being responsible is something that's very important. And many people want to see an end to the Omicron variant. They don't want to go back into lockdown. They don't want to see the hospitals be overrun again and have limited to no capacity. We are seeing hospitals across the country near or at capacity once again, and it's something that people have been trying to avoid. Now, while the mask mandate is something that people are now once again debating, we do know that more and more people are getting vaccinated. And in the cases of the Supreme Court justices, we do know that every single Supreme Court justice on the bench is vaccinated and has their booster. However, because of Sotomayor's underlying condition, she wants to take that extra precaution. And because Justice Gorsuch is not taking that extra precaution, is not wearing the mask for her. She is choosing to participate in her chambers via telephone or via a virtual line. It is something that people are going back and forth with, and it's something that even offices have to look at. Even on our own team, we have people who are choosing to work completely from home and not even venture outside because they have underlying conditions that could stop them, that could affect, not stop them, but that could cause them to get extremely sick. Now, one of the debates when we look at this is the conversation about freedom, that people should have the right to decide whether or not they want to wear the mask. This is something, again, that has been highly debated. However, because we're in a society that we have people who are very vulnerable to getting sick, who are very vulnerable to catching COVID and dying from COVID or getting very sick from COVID, is it not our responsibility to ensure that we're doing whatever we can to protect all of our neighbors, all of our coworkers, all of our friends? If wearing a simple mask can be the difference between our neighbor, our coworker, or our friends ending up in the hospital or being okay, isn't it something that we should do to be good citizens? The choice about freedom, the conversation about freedom to choose comes up time and time again. But we have seen in America's past that when there is an emergency and civil liberties essentially have to be put on pause, that America does choose to do this. But this conversation is something that is being debated time and time again. It's a mask. It doesn't hurt people. It could protect people. So why is it hard for Americans to mask up? And even if it's not a mandate, like we see with the Supreme Court justices, it's not a mandate for the justices to wear a mask. It's not something that they're being forced to do. Chief Justice Roberts asked. It wasn't even Justice Sotomayor who asked. Chief Justice Roberts asked if they could mask up for their colleague. And every other Supreme Court justice put a mask on to ensure that their colleague, Justice Sotomayor, was safe, that she felt protected because she has an underlying condition. The only justice who chose not to put a mask on, the only justice who chose to ignore the fact that Sotomayor has an underlying condition, was Justice Gorsuch. He chose and is choosing to remain on the bench without a mask. And because of that, Justice Sotomayor is now working from her chamber instead of joining her other justices on the bench when they're hearing cases, instead of being able to participate in discussions and conversations in person with her other justices. So guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Again, we are in 2022 and we are still having the debate about masks. Omicron has changed the game. Many people thought we were coming out of the pandemic and we were going back to normal. But the Omicron variant has caused a lot of problems in the United States. Because of this, many places are going back to masks. Many places are putting mask mandates in place or requesting that people wear masks when they're in close proximity. Is this something that should be debated, or for common courtesy for our friends, our colleagues, our neighbors, our family members, should we wear masks just to ensure that the most vulnerable in our population is safe as well? So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mel. I come live every single Monday through Wednesday to talk to you guys about current events and let you know what's happening across the globe and right here in our great nation as well. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I will see each and every one of you bright and early tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everyone.